Hey, welcome everybody to the Dave Cooper live show, Increasing Influence, with myself, Miles Biggs. And today we have a special guest, Byron Lazine, who we're going to jump into and introduce here in just a second. But we want to thank everybody for joining us today. And as always, please hit that like and share button. This is the only way we're going to increase our influence, get the message out there so we can change how we live, how we influence others, and how we personal brand. Miles, what do you think of today's special guest, Byron Lazine, sitting, which way is it? Right in the middle of us over here.
This way, yeah, I got mirrored. Yeah, this guy. I'm excited. I'm ready to learn something. So, Byron, why don't you start with just telling us who you are, what you do, what brings you to the show? As Dave would say, birth to now in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. 5 minutes. Well, I'll skip to 18. Birth to 18 is your typical, kid stuff. Grew up in rural Connecticut. And when I was 18, got out of high school, had big dreams and ambitions like most of us do, right? It started with make a lot of money. And so I got into buying real estate during the last peak. When I was 19 to 21 years old, I bought 3 homes that were in the years 2004, 5, and 6. So in the highest peak of Connecticut real estate, which, by the way, we're basically back at those numbers. We broke a couple of records in July. We can get into that later if you want. But made a lot of mistakes, made every single mistake in the book, and bought in really bad areas, bought at the highest point, and really over leveraged myself, thinking that if I owned real estate, I would be eventually very rich and be some rich landlord down the road. What ended up really happening was by my mid-20s, I lost everything. I lost all 3 houses and went completely bankrupt. So I kind of shied away from real estate for a couple of years. I took a job at a nuclear power plant, actually, that my dad worked at. There was over 2,000 applicants for 8 positions. I got one of them. So I was lucky to get one of these jobs. I was making 6 figures, and I was one of the last people in on the pension plan. And I was told every day how lucky I was from everybody that worked there. But I hated that job. It was eating me alive. I wanted to get back into real estate. And the only way I could do that, because remember, I lost everything right before this, was to get into sales. So 2012, I got into sales. Connecticut was really bad in 2012. There wasn't much happening, but my back was to the wall. I had a lot of people to prove wrong. When that job, you're making a mistake, you walk out. Remember 2011, I believe, was the highest unemployment years during that time. 2011, leaving a job. And I'm all the way from a good one, stay 30 years to make, $1,000. So I left that job and went to stay first. Able to start listening for be consistent, having a show every single week, and being with
So Byron, you're breaking up on us pretty good. I don't know if you can hear me right now. And Miles, Miles, you're getting the same thing on your end. Byron, we're losing him. Yeah, he's going to hop back in here. So, yeah, I mean, think about what he just said. He had 3 houses, back in the 04, 07 area or whatever it was. And then he lost everything.
I know. When he said he bought in 05, 06, but people couldn't see me, but my head was like this. I was like, I knew what was coming.
Right.
There he is.
Hey, there he is.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've got full here. I'm in my office, so I can't. But are we better? Are we good?
Yes, much better.
Yeah, you're definitely better. We were just kind of talking and going, covering some territory on, your background on how you lost everything, in that era with your homes and, hating your job at the nuclear power plant. I'm probably sure I know which one that is since we don't live too far from each other, right? But what's so interesting in all of this, right, is sometimes it takes rock bottom to get back to the top. Sometimes you got to really go through these trial and errors to get back to someplace better. Even in ourselves, we got crushed in 08. I mean, we lost everything in 08, in our building business back then. And I have to tell you, you know, it took quite a while to dig out of that hole. But what it taught us is where we're not going back to. And we're not going to make the same mistakes. And we're going to pay attention to the numbers. We're going to pay attention to, you know, what's happening and what those red flags are. And always betting on yourself is not the best bet. We're all really good, you know, at least we think we are at what we do. So go ahead. I mean, I think we've kind of left off on, you know, so you were at the nuclear power plant, you were making your 6 figures, and while you're doing that, I'm going to bounce Miles out and put him back in.
Sure. And I hated that job. It was eating me alive, and I was a miserable person doing that job. And so I literally quit, walked away. Everybody said you're making a mistake. And I went and dove into real estate head first, got my sales license in 2012 when Connecticut real estate was doing absolutely nothing. And because my back was to the wall, because I had so much determination to prove people wrong, I said, I've got to be dramatically different than the competition. I can't just come into this and kind of take it slow and do what everybody else is doing, which at the time, they were still in 2012, really the top producers were just advertising in the newspaper because that's what they've always done. And they believed if they left the newspaper, oh my gosh, so-and-so is not going to see me anymore. They're so used to seeing me there every single Friday in the real estate listing section. So I immediately started using Facebook every single day to produce content consistently. And that's how I built my business. I went listings first. Most people go buyers first. I started to collect listings because I was producing content every single week, which turned into a weekly show, which I still do today, and just being ultra consistent. And so to fast forward to today, 8 years later, we have a real estate team, 14 agents. We got 4 people on staff on the real estate side and a marketing company that has 4 people on staff, and then some contractors as well. Because the marketing, listen, if you want to be successful in any business you're doing, you've got to build a brand first. You've got to have some consistent content going out. And that's how the marketing company, the media company was really formed, was like, this is so much bigger than just having a marketing assistant, right? We need to produce content at scale on every single platform. And so that's where we're at today.
Well, I think that's, you know, I mean, it's so important, and it's what we talk about, is especially today with everybody on social media. You know, the number one asset, as Gary Vee always says, is people's attention. And you need to be putting content out there. And this is why we have you on the show. You've done a remarkable job at it. I don't know any other real estate brokers personally that have done what you've done. You have your own brokerage. You have, you have a marketing firm. And you have your own radio show on Saturday morning that covers some of the wealthiest areas in the New England tri-state area, all the way out to the Hamptons. So every Saturday you have actually a 94.9, which is a syndicated radio. Your show, I don't think, is syndicated across the country. It's regionalized, but that's still a really big deal. And on top of that, you're doing live streams. You're doing a podcast. You know, what's driving you to do all of this? And I know the answer, but I want our audience to hear, you know, what is the value coming out of all this for you?
Well, there's a couple things. When you think about real estate, for example, the attention, when somebody thinks about buying a home, what comes to mind first? It's Zillow. Zillow actually has the attention. And so Zillow, and we have a Zillow Flex contract here for the area, and we're one of the few companies that has that contract. So we're getting the Zillow leads and benefiting off of that. But with every closed deal, that's 35% to Big Z, right? So how do you get out ahead of that? You only get ahead of that if you actually have somebody's attention on a show like this, on a radio show, whatever the case may be. So you have to be able to show your value through other mediums than them clicking Zillow because they like a particular house. You need to have that conversation first if you want to actually have any margin left in your business, because taking 35% off the top, which is what Zillow does today for real estate agents, you're left with 65, and you have to pay employees and everybody else in an agent split and all of that. So how do you make money off of that model? You have to get you have to have multiple lead pillars, right? And if 3 out of 4 buyers are using Zillow, that means only 25% of them are using something else. Well, I'm not going to forget about the other 25%. I'm actually going to try to grow my lead pillars for people to come directly to me through the content that we produce. But what's driving me ultimately, it is absolutely to have the number one team, the number one number, all of that. But I want to have control over this situation. I do not want to be working someday and have a little Zillow polo on or something like that.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I want to build business, and I'm only going to be able to build business if I'm able to create content that people want to engage with, to be able to take that attention and push it over into sales.
Yeah, yeah. Miles, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm curious. You've got all those pillars, right, for where you get leads, but then also where you're creating content. I'm wondering, people that are listening that aren't even doing anything, right? Because plenty of people are just on the sidelines trying to figure out the best place to start. Where would you advocate that people start when it comes to creating that content and starting to create that control for themselves?
I would start with one weekly show that lives in your calendar in perpetuity. The Real Word is a podcast that I do Tuesdays at 10 a.m. There's nothing that gets in the way of that. Tuesdays at 10 a.m. we record that show, and it's up and it's on Inman News by Wednesday. That is, you can't schedule anything over that calendar block. You have to be very rigid in terms of committed to your show. Like, think about Oprah, right? Did she ever miss a show? Was it at the same time every single week? You've got to be very rigid in that. So you've got to commit. And I always advocate with starting with the one show, because off of that one show every single week, you can get so much micro content that fills out the rest of your week, right? You can pay somebody else to do it. In the beginning, you can do it yourself, whatever it takes, but you can get your blog content, your written word content. You can rip your audio literally from the show and have a podcast. You can put small bite-sized samples on Instagram and LinkedIn and all these different places, because you've committed to the one 20-minute, 30-minute, 40-minute show, long form, even 10 minutes to start, right? And here's the other part of this, Miles, because I know what the next question is, right? Well, what do I say on this question, on these shows? Right. What am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? You're going to go into your inbox. If you're a builder, if you're a real estate professional, whoever you are, you're going to go into your inbox on email, and you're just going to look back on the last 2 years, and you're going to find all of the questions that consumers have asked you, and you've answered them already. You've already answered these questions because you're a professional. You know your business better than anybody, and you're going to take those great questions and you're going to produce content and shows around that. You could probably come up with the next 52 topics, the next 52 weeks of show living in your inbox off of the last 12 months.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's the big ticket. It's really consistency. We say it all the time, and we were kind of talking offline about this. A lot of people spend a whole bunch of time looking at how many followers they have, how many likes they have, how many shares. Oh, it's not working. What am I doing, right? What is your thoughts on that, Byron?
I think it's baloney. I had a call on Saturday of this past week, this Saturday, with a prospective seller in the area. He says, Byron, I've been listening to your radio show. So this is the radio show, the other piece of content. Listen to the radio show for the last 2 years. And you were mentioning July and these numbers and the MLS, and how, if here in Connecticut, we've seen the most closings ever in 1 month, in the month of July, and the most pending sales ever in the same month, July, or both categories for a single month for the Connecticut MLS. So you talked about those sales. I've been thinking about selling. I have another place I'm building. I have a place I'm going that I can rent in between. Will you come over this week? That was just this Saturday. That's one example. Now, radio, there's no like, there's no share. I mean, maybe he downloaded the podcast. Maybe he's on the email list for, we have an email list built out as well. Maybe he's on those things. Maybe he's not. But he's been listening. He's been consuming for 2 years. He's very aware of my brand. And when the time was right for him to pick up the phone, I was the person he called. He could have called any agent. He knows plenty of agents, tons of agents in the area. But it's about, listen, my first new development, which was in Mystic, Connecticut, was a developer who had a 76 lot subdivision. 67 of these homes were already built and sold. They had the same agent for all 67 of those homes. Well, 12 months prior to that, he didn't sell any. So they're sitting on 9 left. You guys know how important it is to close a project out. Builders, developers, they make the money at the end of these projects, not the beginning. His sister said, we haven't had a sale in 12 months, but we found this guy on YouTube. And listen, they never liked, commented, shared anything, the content that they were watching on YouTube. We've watched a few of his shows. We think you should talk to him. We think you should just have a conversation. They picked up the phone. They called me. I came in, had a meeting, showed them what I would do to sell the last 9 homes. They fired their agent who sold the 67 previous, who, by the way, their dad hired.
Oh, did we lose him?
Missing the punchline.
We
I love what
are.
he's saying, though. I mean, that.
I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on here, but they fired him for the family agent for 20 plus years to finish out the deal on 9+ homes, because I got in front of them face to face, not off of a like, a share, or anything else, off of them consuming some content, picking up the phone, calling me. And then it's my job to actually show them the value of what's on the other side, right? Like the content gets the conversation started in a more relatable way today.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, listen, I know you're short on time. We have we got a couple big names in the audience that I think we better go and say hello to, because I know their time is short. So why don't we give a couple shout outs, and then we also have a question. So we got Ashley Buckhold, Materials Exchange. Hey, Ashley, good afternoon, all you beautiful people. Thank you so much. All right, we got Jennifer. You know Jennifer. Jennifer's always behind the scenes helping us. We're saying welcome back. We got Joel Hutchins from Splash Modular. Joel's doing amazing things, and his software is going to, in his words, going to change how we build things. And I truly believe that. The guy's got a lot going on. We have George Ryman. Good morning from hurricane-free Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, George, good to see you. Shorefoot Foundations, always a pleasure having you on. And then we have Greg Ugaldi. Byron, Greg Ugaldi is the immediate past chairman for the National Association of Home Builders at the top, and he has a question for you. Byron, what do you think will be the next big tool in the real estate market space?
Well, I think for agents right now, it's what we've been talking about. Stay ahead of Zillow by actually producing content. Not enough agents are doing this kind of stuff and producing content, micro content for their community so that they're the known source. So I think the next big tool is just doing the hard work, being consistent and producing content. But if you want to go like super high level, I do think there is going to be, during the COVID months, we sold homes sight unseen more than we ever have. And I mean, it's happened before, but the majority of my sales that went sight unseen happened in the last, say, 4 to 5 months since March, whatever that's been, 6 months now, I guess. Right. And it was a massive push, a massive city exodus that was driving this. And it did open my eyes to think that, you know what, there is going to be an element of VR as that technology gets better that does allow people to buy homes sight unseen when there's no pandemic. It's just a more of a natural occurrence. In fact, there was an agent in Aspen that just pulled off a record penthouse sale for $18.3 million. We covered it on the show. And there was a VR element. The buyer did ultimately come walk through during inspections, but they were already committed. They already put the money down. You can imagine what the deposit was on $18.3 million. Wow. As VR tech gets even better and better and better, and you can deliver that into somebody's home, say in wherever, Florida, and they're going to be coming up here to buy the summer home in Connecticut, but they don't want to come up because it's January, and you can deliver tech to their home where they can actually walk through and have this VR experience. That's going to be the next big thing. But right now in the moment, do the hard work, produce content, build a brand locally that's bigger than Zillow.
I'm curious on your take on the micro content. What's the ratio of educational, what's going on in the market, to listings, to personality of who you are as like when we're making that content, what's your ratio that you put out there that you find success with?
We're probably, if you flip through, like if you just went on Instagram or Facebook for One And Company, which is our real estate team at William Ravis, if you kind of flip through that, it's going to feel like it's more local, more agent centric than it ever is listings, because most of our listing stuff, we're going to keep in a dark post, right? We're going to target a specific audience that is interested in buying right now. So somebody that's maybe been clicking around Zillow, somebody that we know is, maybe it's a lookalike audience or an email list that we've loaded up that we know is a buyer for those properties. Those are going to come as a dark post in their feed. Because if you just go on to your typical real estate agent thing and you see just listed, boring, right? So on Wednesdays, we do a weekly rewind on Wednesday, which will show all of the past week. It'll show all the listings, the new listings, the closed, the under contracts for that past week. So you have to have an element, to your point, Miles, of social proof, showing I'm in the business, I'm selling a lot of deals. And that Wednesday weekly rewind for us is that social proof. But we're shouting out agents so that when you go on our page and you're just trying to learn about us or the community, like our lobster, we have a lobster show. We've worked with a ton of great sponsors here over the summer where we review lobster rolls locally, and we're supporting these small local businesses. And
making me hungry.
Yeah. We got 2 that we're shooting later today. And so we're supporting the local small business. We're getting a sponsor involved. Right. Everybody's winning. Everybody's getting awareness. We want, when you're learning about us, for you to come there and do just that. But when we know we have to transact, we're doing that more in an ad-based world, Facebook ads, Google ads, those types of places.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody, if you're joining us, we are live right now with Byron Lazine. He is a real estate broker, a CEO, a public speaker, and he has his own radio show on Saturday mornings in New England. You're based out of Connecticut. The radio show is based out of Connecticut. Greg Ugaldi, by the way, is out of Connecticut. So
Greg, I'm going to give you a follow right after this.
Yeah, follow Greg. He's a busy guy. So, all right, Byron, I love it. So I know our time is short today. What advice, if you were to give somebody the one thing to do, and you already said it, but I want you to repeat it, the one thing that somebody could do today to get started and be their own personal brand, whether you own a company, you have team members. I call them team members. I never say employees. You have team members. I mean, you tout this stuff all the time because, like you said, you don't have, all your brokers aren't doing what you do. What's the one thing that you would recommend everybody do?
You got to have that weekly show, and I didn't mention it when we were talking about it before. There's a book, because everybody's gonna stop on the weekly show thing and say I have nothing to talk about. I don't know what to talk about. Go read the book. They Ask, You Answer. This is written back when blogging was very big, but you can do this very easily for your video show, for your podcast show. You're going to take the questions that you get asked every single day. They're living in your inbox, probably in whatever your email is. And you're going to take those questions and you're just going to start a Q&A show. It doesn't matter that someone didn't send you the question specifically for this show. Just create the show and use the questions that you've been asked throughout your career that are sitting in your email inbox. Take those questions, and that's the name of the how do I buy a piece of land, right? Or a piece that I build? Should I rent? Should I build, or should I buy a resale home, right? Whatever those questions are, that's the title of that particular show. You spend 5 to 15 minutes describing the answer, and you just start a Q&A show. That's the easiest way to start. Do it. I mean, if you can do it once a day, if you do a Q&A once a day, 5-minute show, that's going to be killer. But even if you just do it once a week, that's going to be enough to separate you from most people today. Now, people are going to catch up to that, and you're going to have to get to a place where you're like doing it like Dave and Miles, and you're doing a daily show. Yeah. But Q&A, They Ask, You Answer. That's going to be the place to start.
Yeah. Well, we've kind of seen the value of the daily shows. We talked about this offline. This is the first time I'm going to say it publicly. Our YouTube channel, we started because LinkedIn was it's just hard to find content on LinkedIn once you're done with the post. So we started housing our stuff on YouTube, and that started about the beginning of COVID. And like I said offline, we have 200 subscribers. All right, in the world of YouTube, that's not Casey Neistat numbers, and it's probably not Byron Lazine numbers. However, because of our level of following, we're seeing almost 23,000 minutes a month of content. That's 12 hours a day being consumed.
Oh, we lost your sound now, Dave.
Might have lost you, Dave.
See if he comes back. But what he's saying is 12 hours a day, right? And so much of it's from that consistency. People need to know that the content's there and then know where to find it and that they can depend on it. And I've said it on the show before that I believe consistency breeds authority. And part of that's how you got that call into the room, right? That you're seen as the authority. And so when it's time for them to call somebody, even though they've been listening or watching for 2 years, right, they know they can count on you to show up because you've already been doing it digitally forever.
And nobody's going to consume your ad, right? You have so many, and in your world, builders and developers that it was just like, I want to run an ad in the Wall Street Journal. I want to run an ad in the New York Times. Nobody's going to consume that for 12 hours. They're going to consume that for 12 seconds if you're lucky, probably 1.2 seconds, right? But when you have somebody's attention for 12 hours, when you have multiple views for 12 hours, that's a powerful thing. Think about the word of mouth that comes off of that. So
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. And I wanted to just make that point, because I would have given up a long time ago if I followed how many people join each live stream, how many people comment each live stream. But it's not really about that. What it's about is the consistency. And I'm sure you see it, Byron. Like, I have people, and Miles has people, and this is what we talk about all the time. Hey, you're the guy on the podcast. I watch your stuff all the time. And inside me, I'm going, well, why don't you let me know you're there?
Yeah.
Let me know you exist, man. But I think that's a very important thing to put out there.
No, and what you guys are doing is great. This is really valuable content. I would encourage everybody to share it. Certainly go over to the YouTube channel and follow along. But at the very least, this stuff on your own business, because the landscape, if you haven't noticed in the last 6 months, the landscape is changing for all of us. And if you're not the absolute clear choice for the consumer to at least call and have a conversation with, you are going to be left behind by big tech. Whatever the big Zillow word is in your business, they will leave you behind.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I know our time is just about up, Byron. I got two things. We have a couple comments we'll get to. And after we're done with these comments, I want you to kind of end the show on how you see the market right now. You're on the front lines of home sales and putting houses on the market as well as buying. It'd be great to end this show on what you see the market doing and when do you see the recovery happening or not happening or a crash coming. So let's get into a couple comments. Andrew Seeley, great topic, great conversation all. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us today. Anthony Goudet, lead AP, pure gold today, gentlemen. I love it. That's one guy that's out there hustling at it in the construction and offsite world. All right, and Greg Ugaldi's still with us. Dave, you need to tap into Byron's numbers. He has a great formula. I love it. So there you go. You got yourself a fan.
Thank you, Greg.
So, all right, love it. So there you go, Byron. Take us out on what you see the market doing in the next few minutes, and we're going to end the show right there.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's piping hot. You have it's certainly in my world in Connecticut, you have a city exodus, and that's happening throughout the country. I'm very familiar with the South Florida market, for example. It's screaming hot right now. Certainly the West Coast, where I pay most attention. There's a lot of rural and suburb markets that are the same right now. They're piping hot. So if you're a seller, I'd take advantage of that. July in our particular market was a record month, as I mentioned earlier. What do I see in the future? I see bad things in the future, maybe not specifically for real estate, but for the economy overall, which will have some type of impact on real estate. Over 50% of homeowners right now own either 50% or 100 or up to 100% equity in their home. I don't see values coming down anytime soon, despite the fact that in 2021, you will see foreclosures tick up. But overall, we're kicking the can down the line so much, guys. You know what's happening here with this economy. And something will happen. There will be an impact on real estate. But I think real estate has proven out during the last 6 months that when you do have a real, tangible, usable asset, like a home, maybe not commercial real estate right now, but like a home that people want to live in and enjoy in and actually get some use out of, it's a valuable thing. So I do think values will hold for a while. But there will be an impact on what we're doing right now. So be ready for that. Be prepared. If you're a real estate investor, you really got to think about that. I wouldn't necessarily, if I have cash, be using cash right now. Interest rates are low. Cash deals will come more 2021, 2022, when some of those foreclosures bubble up.
Love it. Love it. All right, Miles, take us out, man.
Well, I'll just take it out by saying thanks, Byron. This has been awesome. I really appreciate your insight. I love your inbox trick. I'm going to use that one for myself too. Whenever I feel like I'm hitting the bottom of the content well, I think it's a great idea. So love the nuggets of wisdom. Appreciate your time because we know you're a busy guy. I hope all you guys watch and learn something too, and actually take action on what he said, because that's the most important thing. It's one thing to have learned it, but another thing to actually make it happen for you.
There's so much content in all of our inboxes. We just got to pay attention. Miles, it's been a pleasure. Dave, it's been a pleasure. If anybody wants to connect with me, go to Instagram at Byron Lazine. Anybody looking for some real estate in Connecticut, by the way, I've got a house, 10 Farrow Court, East Lyme. It's fantastic. Hit me up on it because I think it's going to go probably very soon. And we've got a whole bunch of good stuff happening here on the Connecticut shoreline if you're thinking about moving.
Love it. Love it. Byron, man, thanks so much, man. Real estate broker, CEO, radio host. He's doing it all. He's somebody to follow. Even if you're not looking to buy real estate, I would follow Byron. As you can tell, A lot of great content, a lot of great knowledge. Byron, we're going to have you back on when we have some more time. I know your time's short because you're a busy man, so thank you very much.
I'd love to. Thank you, guys. Be well.
All right. Hang tight, Byron. We'll come right back to you after the outro. Bye, everyone.